Hi, and welcome to You Can Cook Anything with Bob and JP. I'm Bob. Today I want to show you how to butcher your own tenderloin right out of the cryovac bag. For those of our vegan and vegetarian watchers, this may not be the episode for you, so it's okay to skip it. Thanks for stopping by. I will do something else for you guys later. For those of our carnivores and omnivores, stick around. I'm going to basically take the cryovac filet mignon, show you how easy it is to butcher yourself, and then give you the actual price comparison of buying those steaks versus having done this by yourself, and whether or not there's even anything to save in doing it or anything to learn. So stick around while we butcher a filet mignon. Okay, so this is what the whole filet mignon looks like when it comes out of the cryovac. And it has a lot of bits and pieces on here that we don't want. So we've got two knives, we've got a slicing knife, and we've got a boning knife. What we're going to do is we're going to start separating this because there are actual pieces of muscle and muscle components here that we can make easy work of. So first, just run your hand along this piece. This is called the chain meat. And then you'll get this thing. This is fascia. So we're going to want to cut through the fascia and separate the chain from the main cut of meat. Now listen, this is not less expensive than buying cuts, because when you do the math, which I have done in a previous attempt to do this video, I figured out that when you subtract the weight of all these clippings that we'll end up throwing away and save just usable meat, on a per pound basis, it almost comes out to exactly the same price you're paying for your butcher to already prep steaks and just sell you the steaks. So you're not doing this because you're trying to save money. You're doing this because you want to have the fun of butchering it yourself. So the chain comes right off the side. The next thing we're going to take off is this. This is a little Chateaubriand. It's a nice little piece of steak right here. Nice little filet mignon roast, or you can cut it into steaks, so we'll put that aside. And next we're going to get to our big piece here. So first thing on the bottom, this is where the rib cage was, right? These are all the spots for the rib cage. So we want to trim these down a little because they're just big blobs of fat, and it's not tasty at all. So let's just trim these down. The other way to do this is with that big slicer, but I want to have a little more control so that I don't cut away too much beef. Okay. Then you just slice these off. Also, make sure your knives are sharp before you do this. I did that too. So take off all those little flaps of blubs. Okay. So now the bottom is pretty good. I'm okay with this. Boomy is being very good and quiet, so he can have a treat. All right, so now we're going to start just cleaning off whatever you can pull off the top. Gently pull. See, it's very easy to get a lot of this off. Right up until you get to this. This is called silver skin. It's also fascia. Basically holds the muscle group together. So what we're going to want to do is we'll trim this little bit of fat here. And then we're going to show you how to take that off. So to take that off, you're going to start on one end. You see I got paper towels because you're going to need these for grip. And we're going to gently place our knife just under the skin and slowly push it through, being as careful as we can to not go deep. Then angle the knife up a little and cut. All right, now we have the silver skin. Now the idea here is just to gently pull and scrape. There's other ways to do this, like if you're really good, you can cut pieces off one at a time, or you can just gently pull and scrape. I'm going to just get all the way through and then gently cut facing up, so I only take a little of the meat with it, and then do the same all the way down. See, you don't really lose that much meat. You get a lot of that silver skin off. Don't stop there. Don't short yourself, finish it off. You don't want any of that silver skin left behind. It's totally inedible, and you can't make it any softer. It's just going to stay chewy. There's only one person in my house that enjoys silver skin, and that's the dog. Okay, we'll cut a little more of that silver skin here off the edge. And like that. So this stuff is like super strong. Like you're not going to chew through that. Let's just clean up the other little bits of fat here. There you go. So now you have an entire tenderloin, pretty well cleaned up. So the best steaks are going to be right about here. Only from the size of the meat, you're going to get a very uniform looking steak. This is actually another muscle group up here in the front that you can turn into another little roast. But because we're taking this with us to a Thanksgiving feast, I like petting the meat. It's nice. It's kind of like a cat, but with no hair. We're gonna roast this whole thing. So this video is simply showing you how to trim a filet mignon. And that's it. That gives you the main roast. This gives you a petite roast. Let's go back to this petite roast because you obviously aren't going to cook it like this. So same thing, use your hands as much as you can to just pull away whatever wants to come away until you start feeling yourself ripping the meat, then stop and just trim. All right, same thing with this silver skin. Get under there, trim it back. Trim this across. And take off this tiny little bit of silver skin on the bottom. This is another beautiful little roast for two, or one if you're super hungry. So there's a couple. This has a big thing of fat running in it, but it's actually going to be very flavorful since it'll be a roast. So we're going to leave that in there. So here's what we end up with that I will take to Thanksgiving and make for everyone. So that's what we're going to use. Now, anything here that I can salvage as meat, we're keeping, because it's really best in stuff like steak sandwiches. So if we push some of these clippings away and you take a look at this chain meat, like this is a workout, but look at all the meat that's in there. So treat it the same way. Take your time, pull apart the fascia, trim off the pieces that don't want it happily come off. And if you look in here, what you'll get is almost an entire mini roast just from this one piece. This isn't even, we're not even done with the whole thing. So just from this one piece, we get this really nice looking little roast. When you go to the market or you go to a restaurant, this is the stuff that the chefs call Scooby snacks, and they keep them for themselves. I'm going to cut that off. Sometimes it's easier to cut off. Remember, the primary value out of this is stuff like steak sandwiches or little snacks. I do this for my kids. I cut it up into little pieces, roll them in a little salt, and then fry them in butter. We call them Scooby snacks here at the house too. So yeah, trim this off. Check this out. Out of that one other piece, which most people would have seen all that stuff stuck to it, we essentially cut off another little roast and a couple little snacks. Put those snacks there. Now, take your time with some of this. If you take your time, you'll be rewarded with incredibly good meat. And don't worry about fat that's in the muscle tissue, because that just makes it super tender. So just do this. There you go. Little snack. Anything that's not a snack, I don't know if you do raw diets for your dog or whatever, but you can actually keep a lot of this. Here you go, Boomy. You can have those. There you go, buddy. even this silver skin that I showed you before actually has enough meat on it that you can just take your knife and scrape it off like that. Just grab it and scrape it off. This becomes a very nice little snack. And this is the only way to make this worth doing. Like, yeah, sure, there's the fun of doing it, because not all of us get to butcher things, if we ever butcher anything in our lives. But if you don't do this, you are going to spend a lot more money than you could have spent just buying steaks. There's another nice piece of meat. Alton Brown, who's I've actually met in person, pretty nice guy. He did a show on this as well, and he talked a lot about getting your value from it, and that you could, make it maybe a better price. I think the only way you do that is you find a place where you can really buy wholesale meat, because as I said earlier, you do the math, it doesn't get any cheaper doing it this way. But look, some of this meat just pops right off. We're gonna trim those pieces. Okay, trim that. Throw that. And the last thing we're going to do is work on this. That is the remainder of the chain. There you go, Boogie, one more. So the remainder of the chain is the big pain in the neck, because you really got to go hunting. And the easiest thing to do is find big pieces of the stuff you're not going to want to keep. Like this is all silver skin. And just pull it across your knife and get rid of the big chunks. It's much easier to find the end game if you get through the big parts. Keep trash near you, keeps your work area clear. You don't forget what's meat and what's fat. And if you just gently pull as you cut, a lot of times it'll just separate on its own. And you just have to run the knife to break the connection. The nice thing about doing it yourself isn't just the fact that you get to actually get a skill. How do I trim and butcher meat? But with filet mignon, one, the muscle groups are so separated, it's really easy. And two, you get some cuts of meat that you otherwise couldn't get, like this chain, which is insanely tender. See, look, that's a little silver skin. I'm just going to run my knife and gently give it a little pressure. Boop, it all comes right off. This is a beautiful, tasty piece of meat. You will not get this if you don't do this yourself. You can't go to the butcher and go, "Hi, can I have chain meat?" They're going to look at you funny. Look, we've transformed it into a beautiful looking piece of meat. There you go, buddy. Nice catch. Okay. There it is. One beautiful looking little piece of chain meat. You know, you go to the butcher and they would take something like this if they even sold it. And they would wrap it up so it looked neater. A little rosette of meat. So to quickly take a look at this from a value perspective, if we take out a scale, and we put our meat on the scale, let's start with this one. It's just over 2.5 pounds. That makes it 3 pounds, 4 pounds, a little over 4.5 pounds. Call it just short of 5 pounds. So I actually think I did a pretty aggressive and good job of this one. So you figure 5 pounds. This cost $76. So 15 bucks a pound, a little less than that. No, it's about $15 a pound if you do it yourself and save every part. So if you're in a place where you cannot get filet mignon for $15 a pound, you do it yourself. When you buy it in bulk, though, they're only charging you $12 a pound. But do you see how that's actually not what you're getting because of the trimming? So with that weight, you're basically at $76. You're looking at $15 a pound for filet mignon that you had to spend a few minutes working on. Now, when you buy it in the cryovac, my cost for this filet mignon was $12 a pound. So you can see that I may have paid $12, but by taking all the stuff that's inedible and throwing it out, it really costs $15. So it's from on average, and I've done this a lot through my son's chemo treatment. This became one of the things that he could tolerate the best. So we've bought lots of these, and even prior to that, I spent a lot of time. So I can tell you that this is about how much cutoff you're going to end up with. The starting weight was about 6 1/3 pounds. We're ending up with just about 5 pounds. So this is about average. So buy it yourself, take your time to trim it, and you can, expect about 1.5 pounds of loss. Work that into your math, and this might actually end up being a better deal for you if your butcher is charging a lot of money for this. So I hope this helped. As far as cooking it, I'm gonna have to do a whole series of videos with JP on that because there's lots of ways of cooking it. What I'm essentially going to do with this one is I'm going to roast it. I'm going to do a very low heat in the oven and brown it to the I'm not even going to brown it. I'm just going to cook it so that the whole thing is pink all the way through, and then give it a roll through a hot pan to sear the outsides. We'll do some videos on that. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. If this was something you enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to turn on the notifications so you know when we have new videos coming out. And you know what JP and I always say.